Welcome to Today in EVE Online. I am Matterall here. We're going to do some reporting for you about stuff going on in EVE Online. Let's take a look at the schedule today. It's a bit of a mismatch, what do you call it? Hodgepodge. That's right. But we'll be looking at the economic report, a little bit of news on patch notes. There is the partnership program that was announced today, and that is for content creators. If you're a content creator, a streamer, a poet, writer, podcaster, anything like that, there's maybe something there for you. So we'll have a look at that. All right, today's big headline, before we actually start with the monthly economic report, let's take a look at this thing here. This is something that was announced today. It was kind of interesting. Patch notes, when it's not a patch note day where they put down the actual patch, they usually have just a few little things here and there. It's usually not very eventful. It's just bug fixes normally, just a little bit of polish on what they put out. But this one had something that was highly interesting here under missions and NPCs. It says, resource war sites have stopped appearing in space for the time being while they are sent back to the workshop for some renovation and repurposing. It was long rumored that they were going to take out resource wars. It wasn't working the way they wanted it to work. It wasn't being utilized by players because it just didn't pay enough. It was fun, and people made ISK doing these kind of missions, but it wasn't utilized enough for them, and I don't think CCP was happy with the way it came out. For those that don't remember, resource wars, I believe, were NPCs kind of encroaching on, I don't know how to explain it, but they were kind of part of the environment. Like they were encroaching on the local areas. So if you had, I don't know, Gregorian, did you ever use resource wars?
No, I've never used them. I saw that they exist, and I never actually tried to do one of those.
Let me see if there's there was. I just want to make sure I'm talking about the right thing. Thank you. Here it is from EVE Online. Yeah. So resource wars were. Today we are really excited to share our plans for a new feature called Resource Wars. Coming your way from the upcoming October expansion. Let's take the date on that. Yeah, that was 2017, so about 3 years ago. And it was part of Lifeblood. I remember that upgrade. Okay, so it says, after warping to mining expeditions heavily worked asteroid fields, you can take part in the struggles of New Eden's empire to mine rare ores that are the lifeblood of the war machines. You'll have to hold off ruthless pirates, raiders, hoping to seize these riches from your empire, so that mining expeditions freighters can safely deliver their precious cargo to the empire's refineries and shipyards. It is vital that you keep your empire. It is vital that your empire recover as much as possible from the depleted asteroids as they look to build up their fleets into even more powerful armadas. You and your friends will play a critical role in these efforts. Okay, so it is what I was thinking of. And what these guys would do is they would come and eat your resources, and they would mine your asteroids. And if you shot any of the mining ships that were NPC mining ships, then an armada would come and fight you, and they were actually pretty vicious. And I think that was a way of kind of taking away. It was a little bit of taking away resources unless you went over there and actively protected it. So it was kind of doing what the ESS does for PvP. The ESS brings people to your area to take your money, basically, because it's sitting there in a pot. So this was an NPC version where these NPCs would appear in your territory and they would take up your resources. And so you would have to fight them off. So it's interesting that this is not really, this is being suspended, in other words, as of today. So it lasted about 3 years. I don't know when they say it's going to go back and be reworked. They'll probably take parts of it, maybe part of the AI, maybe some of the concepts, and rework it into something else that might be a little more successful. That was another thing they retired not that long ago called forward operating bases, right? FOBs.
FOBs haven't been retired, to
Hmm.
my
Are
knowledge.
they active still? I heard they weren't. Maybe it was
It's
resource
just
source.
that NPC SOTIOs, which are like really large FOBs, have, as Cable has pointed out, the easiest way to find them has been affected by the ore changes because a lot of the belts are empty to begin with.
Mhm. Well, anyway, so resource wars now off the table. They're no longer in the game. And I thought forward operating bases were something that were not doing very well or weren't being used much. So I thought those might go too. We'll have to wait and see. Again, that was CCP's attempts about 3 years ago to get the environment to kind of be more alive, and they continue to do that with some of the stuff they're doing with scarcity and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think CCP should put a more of their company resources into things like resource wars and NPC pirate fobs and things like that. Even if it's not currently widely done content, it keeps the game world alive. And one of the traditionally one of the weak points of Eve is that the PvE content tends to be rather uninteresting, and these things, even if they're not typically the fastest way of generating wealth, are more interesting than spinning an Ishtar around an anomaly or something.
Yeah. So Plague here says resource wars was a waste of time. Honestly, most miners can't defend themselves anyway. That's kind of true because what miners do is they try to optimize for their mining because they assume for the most part they're going to be left alone. So you want to optimize for mining, and that means you don't have a lot of room left for defense unless somebody else defends you. But this is not the game it used to be, where you might have 3 or 4 guys sitting around waiting as people mine, uh, at least on a smaller level, right? So that it just doesn't work. People want action that want a PvP, and people who want to mine in peace, and they're very distinct. And so you would have to make a decision to use your mining ship as a hybrid, something that could defend itself and something that could mine. But if you were left alone, it was uneventful. Then you just kind of got a lower yield than you would have gotten had you just been outfit for mining. Okay, a little bit long there, but just wanted to make sure you guys knew Resource Wars no longer in the game. Let's have a look at one other little piece of news here. Fraternity's income has dropped by half. Speaking of environmental changes, this is something that this is a chart. You can see, I believe it's in Mandarin here. This is the dates are in Mandarin, which is kind of interesting. This is a demonstration by Naros, the leader of fraternity, that how much their income has diminished. It's down by 50% according to his graph here, and he posted this in Talking in Station's Discord earlier today. I asked him for some comments to kind of tell me how this graph worked and what he meant by it and stuff, and it was off hours for him, so he has not replied yet. But for now, it's an interesting announcement. Fraternity's ratting income down by 50%. That, of course, is due to the ESS changes plus the dynamic bounty system. Okay, let's go to the bigger story for today, and that is the monthly economic report. Now, these monthly economic reports really don't say a lot unless they're compared to previous economic reports, and then you can see what the delta is if you guys are, if the economy is doing better or worse than it was, if certain groups are doing better and worse than they were, because we know where groups are in regions. So we can assume that if you're in Awasa, that you're part of fraternity, and that's how that works. But one of the things that's very clear and that we were looking for right away, this is the month of October where the war is really in full swing. You can say that July, besides Fountain, it wasn't really happening. There was a lot of stalemates. And all the way up until October, really, there just wasn't a lot of war on paper economically. It wasn't showing up. Well, it showed up in October. You look down
Yeah,
here.
Delve
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
under 5 times stuff destroyed as the next region on the MER.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. But this blue line here is destruction. I believe this line here is production. This is destruction, and this is mined. Let me actually make sure that I'm doing that right. Yep, that is correct. So we'll get a little closer here. So in October, you can see this huge spike that's blue here. And you can also see this overall, this bump here. This is a significant bump. That is from the Keepstar fights, probably, that happened. And
Yep.
you had 4 Keepstars put down, and the amount of ships it took to destroy those Keepstars before they anchored or online was immense. One battle alone was 2.5 trillion. Another battle was 1.2 trillion. There were a couple battles that were between 700 and 900 trillion. And so you start adding all these up, and you can see it created a massive, massive bump here. And that was not just the only that wasn't just on one day. That was over a period of weeks, days and weeks and stuff. And there were other things going on too, but those were definitely earth-shaking fights over a period of weeks. So that registered, in case you wanted to know. So the war definitely is in full swing. I wonder if production-wise, it looks like production took a little bump too, probably replacing some stuff. And mining is down because I'm sure a lot of mining that was coming out of nullsec is now being affected by the changes. You'll probably see this trend down as
Only one of the top 14 nullsec regions is, only one of the top 14 mining regions is nullsec,
Mhm.
OASA, and
So,
then I believe the next nullsec region on the list is also controlled by Fraternity.
yeah, that's probably the only safe place to mine in nullsec right now. So you can see Delve at 11, basically 10.8 billion. Sorry, that's 10 trillion. 10.8 trillion. They put a B because that is 10,888 B. So that is 10, close to 11 trillion. Nobody else comes close to that that I can see. So that's why it's clearly blue, and everything else is just kind of red, which means this is all not even registering compared to the leader, which is always in blue. So yeah, that's the war that's happening in. And then this is a better way of seeing it. You can kind of see it scaled up. So I'll take you actually to that a bit better there. Clearly at almost 11 trillion, that dwarfs all other destruction. What I thought was funny on this, and this is what I pointed out in TIS Discord, was what's going on in Lone Trek? Why is it number 2? Oh, I thought that was funny. So, yeah, so those are destruction numbers. And if we're looking at mining, and this is what Gregorian was just saying, these are all high sec. You can see Domain, Metropolis, Forge, Sync Liaison. Those are the big empire capitals, right? You also have Lone Trek. Turns out it's a lot of activity in Lone Trek. Tashmerkin, this is off of Amar, off of Domain. And other than that, you really don't see anything except this light purple, which is not blue. It's on its way to red. Red is kind of the lower end. And that is 1 trillion, 1.2 trillion. So the mining in nullsec really, really hit hard. And every shore is a mining region inside a Galente space. So that's nice to see that it's actually still pretty productive as far as mining goes. It's always been a miner's paradise. I used to live in Every Shore. Quiet place. Not a lot goes on there. Although RVB set up shop there one time and didn't really register. Let's look at the value though. Yeah, the forge on top with 1.6. That's because there's a lot of people mining a lot of small things, pretty much. Domain almost matches it. Very interesting. Metropolis. Look at this. These empires are really close together. These 4 capital regions for these empires. Galente and through Amar, all kind of competing for the mining. So it's spread out. It's very spread out. It's very interesting. Then you get into nullsec with Awasa. And then again, it goes back into Lone Trek, Citadel, Tash, Every Shore. So very interesting. Mining is now the domain of HiSec. At least the quantities, right? Not necessarily the richness of the minerals. All right, let me do a better job of answering questions and talking to you guys here. Let me go through notes real quick. Or through chat. And of course, I take any question you have. I'll try to answer it. Yeah, all right, so let's keep going. Total production. This will be interesting. The Forge has always been a leader in production, but Delve is way up there too at almost 18 trillion. It's probably around 17.5 trillion. They are producing a lot of things. Of course, they are also losing a lot of things, a lot of ships. So that might be really ship-based. But they are definitely converting a lot of those stockpiles into actual war machines, and they're trying to fight it out. And it's good to see they're actually producing a lot, way more than anybody else. Boas is way down here. It's like 1/4 the amount. So that's production. Of course, we expect that. That's what's going on in. One thing though, that was October, and production is very crippled now, or it's more crippled than it was, because 2 Sotios went down a couple days ago. So does a Tatara. Delve always had a lot of infrastructure, a lot of places to build, but without those really big shipyards, it might be a little harder to move your stockpiles to where the new shipyards are, for instance. So I'm not sure how that has worked out, because the problem isn't that there are bottlenecks inside of an engineering complex. In other words, there's plenty of space to build. You can build, as many people can build in a complex as you want. And those big structures give you the best bonuses. So that's just the preferred place, but it's not the only place to build. The problem is those stockpiles, right? Where does the mining take place? Where do the minerals get refined? Where does all that richness in minerals and parts go? Because that's hard to move. It's bulky. It takes a lot of space. So that's what happened. That's what happened there. I'm going to bring up a friend that you guys will recognize. This is Ron USMC. He's going to join us and hang out with us here as we talk about the MER. How you doing, Ron? It's good to see you.
Hey, Ron.
Let me make sure he knows. I didn't see his message till just now.
Hey, buddy. How are you, man?
There you are. Really good. We're going through, I think you can see my screen. We're going through the MER right now. How are you doing? Are you there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You're good. All right. I'll assume you're good. Okay. So trade balance in the region. Now, trade balance is something we can see on the graph. There's a bar at the very end. We won't go there now, but let's look at trade balance here in October 2020. This is by quantity, though. I'm not sure that'll show us anything, but it's hard to explain. But trade balance isn't just trade balance. It also means how much stuff comes into a region, how much stuff goes out of a region, which means it'll capture people leaving a region and people coming into a region. So total market value by region. Get that as well. It's always the Forge. And then if they take the forge out, then you get a different idea. And domain, and then delve. Delve is less than halfway there. I want to see the comparison because remember, something else happened besides the war, and that was that Triglavian's Pushvin was created, and that broke the trade route between the major trade hub of Jeddah and the secondary major trade hub of Amar. And so how is Amar surviving without Jeddah's connection, right? Because what people could do and did do is they would go to Jeddah and they would buy a bunch of materials, and then they would ship it themselves to Amar and mark it up and sell it to people in the south that didn't want to travel all the way to Jeddah. But it was only 9 jumps between those 2 places, so it really wasn't that big an inconvenience to go 9 more. Well, that relationship got severed, and now it's something like 20 to 40 jumps, which is huge. And people will not travel that extra distance just to get a little price break. And so you would think that Amar would become a hub, but at the same time, it's cut off from major supply lines as well. So I think it is not doing very well. Let's see if we can see that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's if it's that simple.
Is that simple?
What Elise pointed out was that it was exporting less. So if domain area still does a lot of high-sec mining and industry around Amar, so I'm guessing that they're more likely to be trading locally than bringing to Jeddah.
Could be, but look at least in October, and it may be early to tell, but domain is dwarfed. I think it's always been dwarfed, but I don't know if that's better or worse. And then here, without Jeddah, is domain compared to everybody else. So that's value by trade. I think that's what sits on the market. Okay, here's the imports and exports. This is what I was talking about, the bar graph, and you can see in Delve, there is a huge import. I believe this is import, right, Blue? Yeah, it's plus 9 trillion. And guess what that is? That's the Pappy Armada coming into Delve.
Wasn't that exports?
I don't know. It's exports are the negative, aren't they? Let's see. Net value shown as dark area. Value is 30-day universal. Total value items entering and leaving regions in any type of jump, including vessels shipping them. Net value is shown as dark area. So I think this is imports on the right, the blue, because they're plus that amount. And here's the exports, 4 trillion. So I think that's pretty funny if I'm reading that correctly. That registers the ship's register.
The thing is, what I'm seeing is the net exports graph still has Delve as the highest net exporter as what it is. So I'm pretty sure you're misreading that.
All right, I'll go back to the drawing board and we'll sort it out and have a second day of MER when I'm sure about what I'm talking about.
You see that even with several keep stars and some capital and super capital fleets moving into Delve and similar big moves not leaving Delve, I had been hearing that they had been selling off a lot of their Moon Goose stockpiles in particular, and other stockpiles to fund the war, and they had acknowledged that they sold a lot of stuff.
Oh, well, I think both these.
So
I think you're right. But both these things can. I got you. But both those things can be true. I think the net export here, or the export number, is 4.5 trillion, and that actually matches up with this, which is 5.16 trillion. Those are about the same, I think.
Yeah, it's saying that net exports are 5.2 trillion. So that's 5.2 trillion is more than they brought into the region, is what that is.
Well, Ron,
Which
you're
is,
out there every day seeing what's going on in Delve since you stream it just about every day for test. What's going on in Delve?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I think maybe people are relocating, or that might be 5 trillion in, there's lots of activity around Ermelin, which is the asset safety system. So maybe it's people leaving there, but also it could be from, in it moving to Fountain as well, right? So I don't know what the import on Fountain is, but I know that, they moved their capitals back up to Fountain, so it's probably includes that as well.
Oh, did they move the capitals back? Because initially they just moved themselves back, their clones, but they left their capitals in Delve.
and they've started Rorqual mining in Fountain again, so that's probably a factor.
What? Yeah, that I didn't know that about Initiative. What is their status in this war?
Yeah, Fountain imported 5.8 trillion ISK worth of stuff, so I'm sure that's a factor.
Yeah, so they've been fighting up in Fountain with some of the smaller groups, and they, just a few days ago actually, they have now deployed into northern Esso, up in H4KT, I think it is. And that's who we've been fighting, is Init plus Bastion in northern Esso.
Oh, let's I want to actually talk about that because I want to know what's going on in that theater of combat. We'll finish up right quick with this MER, and then we'll talk about Esoteria. Since we have you, we'll try to take advantage. Discs and sinks. Is there anything here? Bounty prizes. 55 trillion. That includes all kinds of bounties, I believe, including missions and all the stuff that goes on in HiSec too. There was something else here. Active ISK delta is negative 14 trillion. That is 14 trillion leaving the game. So essentially, money is draining from the economy because 80 trillion are draining.
Yeah, 14 trillion is also the GM activity, so that could be RMTs and bots and all that kind of silliness.
Their money gets knocked out when they get banned, you mean?
Yeah, and it's insane amounts of money.
Yeah, it is an insane amount of money. Okay, last thing is just want to take a look at these faucets real quick. So these are where's the legend? Oh, legend's over here. Well, skill purchasing dropped. LP went up. I wonder what that has to do with. But other than that, nothing else traded places and is pretty steady from what we can see. So there's no changes in October from the last few months. And then money supply, we want to look at this last one, velocity. And it looks like the velocity is moving up over the last 2 months, probably through November as well, because this last part is November. And that is good. That means money's trading hands as people are buying and selling stuff. What you don't want to see is a large dip like this, a sudden dip, or that. And we talked about it. We did a little tutorial on what velocity of ISK meant and why it was important to look at. Oh, there is one thing here that I want to check out. And this is economic velocities, the full history of EVE Online. Something is way up. The mineral price index has never been higher. That means minerals have never been so expensive. And look at that, is a huge jump last month. And I think these are actually by expansions. No, they're by months. And that trend just continued, and it is unbelievably high compared to what every other time. So that's pretty good. That will eventually make the secondary, I think the principal and the production and the secondary, sorry, the primary producer and the secondary producer, those will eventually start to go up as well. Because you can see that I think it's the secondary is moving up, as is it's the primary. So in other words, the minerals go up in price, and then the things you build with the minerals start going up in price too. Those are all going up in that direction, which is good. Things become more expensive. This is what they wanted with scarcity. So at least economically, it looks like it's just now starting to work. Okay, so that's the MER. I think there's a couple things to look at there. People pointed some things out to me earlier, but I need to look at it myself and actually have a good comparison session with times before. But the war does register on it. We saw that with the destruction. And we are also seeing minerals higher than they've ever been. That's a very important data point. Okay, Esoteria, Ron. What is going on in Esoteria?
So basically, Bastion has deployed / moved to northern ESO, and recently Init has moved in with them, deployed in with them. And up in that area we have the like the Stain Russians, as they're called, as they call themselves. And they've been, kind of hitting those few systems up north for, a good 3 years now. And when Bastion came in to help them, Bastion brought in a lot of kind of standard fleet tactics, and it's worked really well for them. I've really enjoyed having Bastion up there to fight, because they fight, I guess just normal. They have fun comps, they stay and fight. It's like, normal fleet fighting. So it's been a lot of fun. I always kind of joke, like, I don't know why everyone always tries to talk trash about them, because they're, and they're nice. They're GFs in local. Like, it's just, it's like a gentlemanly war, right? And
that's good leadership.
Now that
Carneros.
Yeah.
They have
I actually
Dominarch.
was talking to Carneros the other day, about it. And he said that the guys like it because it's not as crazy as Delve. And I said, well, yeah, like Delve is pretty crazy. It's multiple groups and lots of coordination and lots of handing off of info. So yeah, I totally get it. It's been a lot of fun though. But Initiative recently deploying there is adding even more. So what we've done is pulled back a little bit from Delve to really hit Northern ESO and give it more attention.
Yeah. So the question is asked here by Drunk Canuck. Didn't they used to be Gentlemen's Club? I don't think they were Gentlemen's Club. I think Gentlemen's Club was the one with the Playboy Bunny, and that was part of like Nulli Segunda, I think, and Cult of War. That was that group. They were part of N3. What you're thinking of, I believe, is Distinguished Gentlemen, I think. And yeah, so Eli, what was it? EI3. No, Lost in Eve. Lost in Eve. Yeah, that's it. Lost in Eve was the Bastion along with Gents, which I think was, again, Distinguished Gentlemen. I think it was Distinguished Gentlemen. I hope I have this right. And they merged up and created the Bastion. And then Carneros inherited it a bit later from, I forgot his name. But he was a pretty well-known player, an IT guy. He retired from Eve, and I think Carneros kind of inherited it and has taken it from there. Yeah, Gentleman's Agreement, I think, was a pretty cool, laid-back. That was the vibe that continues in Bastion, and of course, that's also a part of what Carneros has brought to them. So it's kind of a laid-back fighting going on over there.
Well, we haven't expended a ton of energy because, we always wanted to focus on Delve, and that was always our number one concern. So, we would be fighting in Delve, and then they would be doing something at the same time in Northern Esso, and we would, just put minimal energy into it because we didn't want to, wear anyone out. But here in the past few days within it, we're giving it a little bit more attention. And actually tonight is a final timer on their Fortizar in HT4. And the armor timer a couple of days ago was where we used Titans and Supers and whatnot on it. So I don't know if tonight will be a big fight or not, but it is kind of going to be a pressure move on them.
Yeah.
They seem to say they're making progress there. Like, what would you say to that?
I would say, yeah. I mean, ever since they've come here, they've made some steady progress for sure. I mean, the stained Russians that were living there, they're a much smaller group. So the way that they fight is very standoffish, and it's always super at range, and very risk averse. But the downside to that play style is, if you aren't there at the spot, like you're going to lose objectives, right? You don't have someone there intosicing, right? You're in the back trying to shoot things. So, but Bastion brought that, that sort of typical normal fleet combat into it, where they would also try to hold the field, right? Rather than just get kills and save their ships. So that's, ever since Bastion's been in, they've been making, slow progress.
Yeah, but progress in the right direction for them. Has that caused problems for Legacy? Is this something they have to send people back for and stuff?
No, I mean, it's basically just a group of us, we enjoy it and we like the fights, and every now and then, if they try to do something that we really care about, then, we'll step it up. But for the most part, it's, just Delve. We own, all of period basis now. So it's just as much, and most of our energy, like 85% of our energy goes towards Delve.
And you're not distracted from that, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good strategy for them as well, right? Like we did that in the beginning where we were hitting from the south and, and getting thrown into the meat grinder while they were making progress up north. And we were constantly getting into these really massive fights, and we would be outnumbered and whatnot. But at the same time, PanFam would be pushing up north and taking iHubs and whatnot. So that was our strategy in the beginning, and now they've kind of switched around, which is when we're pushing Delve, like yesterday we took, I believe it was 11 iHubs yesterday.
Yeah, it was 11.
And killed like 2 faction Fortizars and a Sotoyo, all kinds of stuff. At the same time, they're intosicing stuff in Esoteria, right? So if anyone's back in Esoteria, we kind of run them off. So it's nothing will deter, that push into Delve, right? And the sort of objective of the whole war.
Right. What did you think of the big announcement of the defensive maneuver that Imperium is in now, the Helm's Deep strategy?
There's a lot of things that I don't understand about their strategies, like, and I don't want to say that they're whatever, but because I think there's just some parts of it I just don't understand, and I think a year from now or something, or 2 years from now, like when everyone's kind of sitting down and thinking about some of the things that they did wrong, I think the one thing that I've seen up to this point is they keep saying that they're going to make us bleed, but I don't see enough of that, right? And there's several opportunities that they could have compounded and made us bleed, but I don't see a lot of that, and I wish that there was more of that, right?
More of a grinder, because you guys put them through a grinder when they were trying to take down the Keep Stars, for instance. I mean, that was really an obvious example of a grinder. Remember they were joking about the wood chipper and how they were going to throw you in the pubby wood chipper?
Yep.
And really, they got thrown in the wood chipper. If you just look at those numbers and you look at the amount of ships that were lost, sure, we can say they can afford it, that sort of thing. But there really hasn't been the opposite, has there, where you guys really lost a ton of ships that was far and beyond what they were losing?
Yeah, and that's what's been really surprising, right? Is that there haven't been these sort of grandiose, attacks at certain points, right? Like when we did the 2 Keep Stars in Quirius, we put one down and we were certain that we were going to get challenged, and people were just dumbfounded that there was no challenge at all. So we put down another one the next day, and that time we were really, really ready, right? And then nothing. We're like, well, wait, why they let us getting so close? Like, it's strange. Even if it's not being able to destroy the Keep Star, at least make us pay for it,
Those were the 2 Keep Stars that went into Aquarius before the assault on Delve, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was it was rather fast, and I didn't realize you guys were surprised by it, but now I see why the second one went down so quickly too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then they did put up a fight. Then there was some fighting going on for the clearing out of 49U. That's where the resistance kind of started, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and then they really fought hard for NPC Delve, really hard. But then when you guys were able to put down a Keep Star, they're fighting really hard for Delve. It seems like they're trading iHubs back and forth. But really, if we're honest, and let's go to the universal map here, the iHubs are really starting to swing in your favor. We'll go from looking at just constellations to looking at iHubs, and you can see that well, these might be reinforced that are yours now because it looks like you took possession of this, and you're right outside of 1DQ. So there's still a couple of constellations down here you need to take, but you've taken all of this. So you got about 3 constellations to go before you have to face Helm's Deep.
Yeah, and we think that Imperium still has some big sort of elaborate assault or something, and we're kind of waiting to see that. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's Helm's Deep or something, or we'll do something big around that. But yeah, we took the iHubs, but to be fair, some of the iHubs, like QX and OTAC-I, we've taken those and then they've taken them back.
Yeah.
And, they flip back and forth 3 or 4 times. But the resetting, is important for both of us, right? So when they take it back, they're under no illusion that they're going to keep it, as much as they're prolonging that 35-day timer before we can put down defenses.
Yeah. And that's important. Why?
Well, so at 35 days, we can put down jammers, right? And we can sino-jam it. And then, we could do jump bridges. But, if you want to put down a Keep Star.
So just to be clear, that's 35 days of consistent ownership of the iHub without them
Correct. Consecutive. Yep.
Right.
That's right.
And once you do that.
And that's. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and once you have 35 days, you can do what?
Well, so like as an example, the 49 TACU Keep Star, we at 35 days of having that iHub, I think it was, 3 or 4 days later, we put down a Sinojammer. And, and then that means that we can control the Sinos that are lit in the system. And that means they won't be able to bring in more capitals unless they're already in the system or they take a gate. And if we can control the gates and there's nothing in the system, then, it's our game, right?
Right. So then you can take your time on that Keepstar. So that's what they're doing with this Helm's Deep tactic, I guess. And that is to jam up everything behind this one system and then protect the gate like crazy so that you can't get through that gate and you can't jump in or send a fleet in via a Sino. But do you think something like that can work?
Well, no. I mean, no, because, we already have covert Sinos in there, right? Mm-hmm. We've already killed Rorquals and whatnot in there.
In where?
If you have in those 3 constellations there, it was like 3 or 4 days ago.
But if the whole system is jammed, you can't use those Sinos.
Well, but you can use covert Sinos, right? So with the covert Sino, we can bring in more Sinos, and then you can bring in bombers, and the bombers are excellent at structure grinding, right? And, if you have, let's say, 200 bombers going in there and just start to hit all the jammers, they only need to knock out one, right? And you can light a jammer. Even if you reinforce the jammer to online the next one, there's still a very small window where you can light a Sino, so and then you can jump in.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Didn't I totally forgot about that, but the coverts can get past them. Well, all right. Let's go back to Esoteria where we started. You were saying that they're making rather good progress. You complimented Bastion and how well they're doing, and you like their fighting style. And is there anything else that we need to know about? Are the Russians getting involved in there from Stain? Stain's right here. And they seem to have appeared, at least taking out a group from Army of Mango. Yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the Stain Russians have, been up there for 3 years, and due to their fighting style, they just haven't made much progress, right? They've talked a lot, but they haven't made much progress. But Bastion came in and really, started to do the heavy lifting for them, right? Mm-hmm. And they, I have nothing bad to say about any of them. They're doing good work. Slowly progressing, and just inching forward with that constant pressure. I have no qualms about them, and they're also nice guys, it's like a gentlemanly war. I appreciate that, You give me GFs in local, hey, yeah, GF to you too, man. Nice tactic. Nice work.
That's where I want to fight. Where
yeah, exactly.
You're going.
My only complaint about this is that they didn't start doing it earlier.
Well,
because I honestly think that would have been the way.
They were fighting in Fountain before that, right? And then Fountain was annexed, and then they were in Delve for a short time. I think maybe just a few weeks before they went to Esoteria. I think, I don't know, but it's been several weeks now that they've been in Esoteria, I believe. At least 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, it's been, I think, a little bit over a month, maybe even close to 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I think the Imperium as a whole should have sent out a few SIGs to do things like that, is because this really seems.
Well, are you going to give up your space?
Right way to fight.
Yeah, you're right. Hit the backfield. But are you going to give up your space now, Ron, and move to Delve? Is Esoteria, are you just kind of letting it burn?
No, I mean, I'm in denial about moving to Delve. I have a lot of stuff. So I'm just,
Huge workload.
like, problems in my life, I'm just going to ignore it and just act like it doesn't exist. And no, we're going to fight, you know, in Northern SO, and we're going to have fun, especially, you know, within it, you know, also coming over, you know,
Yeah.
but I don't know if Init knew, but all the wormholes are down south, so I don't know if they knew that or not. So we'll have to see how they adjust to just normalcy. But you know, yeah, we're gonna fight, and it's a lot of fun, and it's also you know, gives people a chance to kind of dust off all their armor caps, right? Because all of our shield caps are deployed. And our armor caps have been, you know, kind of ignored, and people get to dust that off, and I think that's fun. I love the Nix now. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like a big freight train.
Yeah. More detail on it, too. More engines, more graphic detail on these motherships, the supercarriers. Yeah, we're looking at the iHubs now, and you definitely still own a vast majority of the iHubs. You see like 3 are under pressure here up in the north, and here's where Bastion is there in pink. And who's Para?
Farah are the Stain Russians.
Farah, yeah.
That's yeah.
Sorry, yes. Actually, they're pretty active too. I was looking at them a little bit smaller. And they're basically, those two groups are kind of taking over iHubs over in this area, but really you still own a lot. There's a lot to take over. I would say it's about 1/5 taken. There is something I did.
Yeah, I mean, those might be Farah iHubs, but that's 80% Bastion work, right? That's Bastion up there, just you know, chugging away at it.
They're putting in the elbow grease, huh? Okay, good for
Yep,
Bastion.
that's exactly right. Yeah,
And,
I mean, I think in 3 years, Farah took 1 TCU from us, and that was it, if I remember right.
Bastion's the missing ingredient. I think Bastion used to have a reputation for being more relaxed, interested in a variety of things. They weren't really like hard-nosed PvPers that people feared when they entered a system, that kind of things. But I believe in the last year or so, I don't know how long this has been changing, but you have them being complemented by the likes of you, by Killer B, and other people who have fought against them. Myself, they killed me. You know, I got away from other groups, but Bastion actually killed me, and I was trying to sneak a camera through to film a battle.
Yeah.
Bastards. But they're vicious. You know, Bastion is tough, and they've definitely kind of remade their reputation a little bit in that sense, at least from the outside, and they're doing it with great success. So good for them. It's they're no longer like the pacifists, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I see them in local, it's like you know, it's not that I think, you know, that there's going to be 5 nano Dramiels chasing me around, but I'm thinking, all right, what are these guys doing? What are they up to? You know, what kind of strategy, or what are they, you know, planting or doing, or that kind of thing. But you know, and the other thing about that is it also gives Bastion a chance to do something on their own. You know what I mean? Because they are smaller, and you know, before they were, you know, additional people on X gate camp and additional people on Y gate camp and this and that. But this is them doing, you know, some war initiative stuff on their own, and I think that's great, you know, and it's good for camaraderie and all that good stuff.
Maybe it was that move to Fountain that got them to live the harsh lifestyle out there instead of being, you know, in the cushy.
And you know, Carneros is the head of it. Like, come on, like,
nobody's more vicious than that.
One of my favorite people, right? Like, so you know, how can you not like him?
You gotta watch out for him. He's a pirate. I think he's in the audience too, so I'm saying that right to you, Carneros. Okay. So,
my cameras will be clearly marked, sir.
So we're looking at something I put together last night. I was writing something up for the daily newsletter that we put out now in game. If you want to get it, it's a newsletter, goes out in game to your character. Just sign up for the mailing list through your mail UI, and the mailing list is called TIS News, 2 words, TIS News. And you'll get this every day in your mailbox, just about 200 words on what's going on in EVE Online. And mostly it's been war related because it's a reflection of this show. It's the research we do for this show. Gregorian helps out with writing as well. So I was doing this last night because I thought I would put it together for people who kind of want an update on who's on which side, since it's kind of changing and evolving a little bit. But for the most part, I went ahead and picked out what their theoretical numbers are for, like, let's start with Goon Swarm Federation. Their theoretical numbers, that's the numbers that are on paper, of about 29,000 characters. But their active is 7-day active based on kill mails in the last 7 days. So if they registered a PvP kill, not an NPC kill, then they would count as 1. So they have like 3,500 combatants basically in the last 7 days. So then I extrapolated what like the active ratio is. Now that might sound terrible. Out of 30,000, you have 3,500 that are actually fighting, characters that are actually fighting. Again, this is not players. This is characters that register. But this is very normal. In fact, it's actually a relatively good rating at 12.13% activity from their theoretical. So I went ahead and did that with everybody else. And the initiative scored really well with a 13.8 percentage. And then here's Bastion also doing pretty well with a 13.4. So all these groups are very committed compared to everybody else. Again, that number is relatively low, but there's a lot of auxiliary characters you have, from Sino alts to banking alts to trade alts, all whatever. So this number of theoretical high is going to be way higher. So that's pretty good to see. So Bastion's, puts 300 people in this last week onto the fields with some activity. There's other groups, like as you were talking about here, Russians, for instance. We're talking about Ferrata Victrix. That's who we were talking about now, that have some of those iHubs, and they have 97 people who've been active in the last few days. But that's a pretty good ratio. They're at like 17% of their 500 people, so like 1/5. French Connection is like everybody else. When you get into the smaller groups, you start seeing like who have the actual PvP characters. Well, one of the cool things about this is it gave me a summation of, well, how many people do they have fighting? And so in the last 7 days, the Imperium side has about 6,000, right? It's just under 6,000 people fighting. Theoretically, they should have 52,000 characters fighting, but they have, 6,000. And that is, of course, this is not perfect. Some of these characters might be PvPing somewhere else. I tried to take those out. So I went through kill mails to see if they were fighting in Delve, and that's where I picked up groups. And some groups might fight for one fight and never show up again. So I had to ask people like if that made sense. And so this is a little bit, but it's still not perfect. So on the other side, on your side, Ron, for Pappy, you have pretty much the same alliances that are about the same size as the Imperium, or Goon Swarm and Bastion and Initiative, and they all have about 12%. Fraternity is at about 11%, 10.7%, because they're on a different time zone. So there's that. Northern Coalition, though, 20% activity. 20%.
I'm telling you, NC's who you got to watch. Those guys, they come out.
They show up. Another anomaly that's pretty high here is these Lord of Worlds Alliance. That's 18.45. They only have like 240, 250 people, whereas Northern Coalition has 740 basically people active in the last 7 days. So Northern Coalition is really in there. Let's look at Horde too. That was another big one. We want to find Horde. Should be at the top here. Yeah, right there. Yeah, they're like 12.6. That's a respectable number. So again, you can see these are all around 10%. And there's a few anomalies that jump out. But overall, they have about a little more than 2 times the amount the Imperium does. They have like 2.2 times as many. They have 13,000 as compared to 6,000. So yeah, so their Imperium is outnumbered 2 to 1. Actually, a little bit more than 2 to 1. So I thought that was cool. One other thing I want to do a little shout out to Rebecca. Actually, I took them out. Did I take them out? They're actually on Imperium side because they were hired. But they have a really outstanding number, probably the highest of everyone, because they're a small group, tight, very high activity. 25% of them actually show up and have fought in the last 7 days, either been killed or killed. So they're definitely active. 25% is twice as much as the bigger alliances. All right, this is cool. I'll give you guys a link.
Yep.
I'll give you guys a link to this. It's only
I think this is great, and I think this is very representative of, and Asher said it as well. Actually, and I really liked your episode when you were playing the sodas, kind of back to back and kind of going back form. And I listened to that, and and Asher said that 1.5 to 2 to 1. And I agree with that. I do, because that's, on the Z kill. But, one thing that, I'm always going to get into the goddamn gate camping, man. Like, I see Asher and I see Elo and these guys out there, and, they're doing as much as they can. They're outnumbered. And then you go 4 jumps over and there's 90 people camping a gate, right? You go 2 jumps over and there's 70 people camping a gate, and I'm just like, why don't you guys go over there and help Elo, man? Help Asher. Like, they're down like 150 people. Like, I don't know. I think there's, I'm not sure. It's like some maybe culture, or maybe whatever leadership, whatever it is. But like there's some sort of not cohesiveness, right? Like, I don't know.
Too many people in the hot tub. Jump into the pool.
Maybe, yeah.
It does get crowded. I get you though. And again, this counts people who are, at gate camps. If you have 70 people at a gate camp and a ship or 2 comes in and everybody gets a shot into it, you're going to register on this thing. So, it's not perfect. But yeah, I think we all kind of know it's about a 2 to 1, a little over 2 to 1. It's certainly not some of the stuff we've been hearing in articles on INN recently. Moomin wrote, he took a number from the very beginning of the war, which was, a different shuffle of numbers, but they counted in renter alliances and all sort of stuff. So the theoretical number, when they say we're outnumbered 3 to 1, 150,000 to 50,000 is, it's not that accurate anymore, if it ever was.
Oh, I think that's just Reddit. They're just being, making excuses for whatever. Asher was right on. Right on. 1.5, 2, depends on the day. Yeah, that's pretty much right on.
All right, cool. Okay, one other thing I wanted to look at, and this is a little bit of nostalgia. I remember something happened in the war early on. I thought it was an interesting move, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was for. You know how you said you can't figure out their strategy? Well, like giving up Fountain, then going back to Fountain on Initiative's part. I couldn't figure out what they were trying to do there. A few of the moves that the Imperium has made, I haven't quite figured out what they were trying to do there. Here's another one. This is 1DQ. This is, for the most part, not being defended. It certainly isn't the capital anymore because they're in a Helm's Deep posture in a different system further away. So these 4 keep stars are sitting here. Of course, they'll be defended, and it's going to take a long time to take any of those down. But this was the capital of the Imperium, and it feels like, why did they put down 2 more keep stars at the beginning of this war? Do you remember they did that, or is that my imagination? Did they do that?
Yeah, they had 3 before the war, and then they had 5. They have 5 now.
So they put down 2 like at the beginning of the war or something, right? Yeah. Well, I don't know. That was it seems kind of wasted right now because I don't see any strategic advantage to that. Maybe it comes in when one of them gets attacked, and you can stage a super capital fleet out of 1. I don't know. But
yep, that's it. It's the same thing that we do with like Fortizars and Astras. They're tether spots. You can put anything in there. You don't know where they're coming from, and in this picture that you're showing, it's okay. So there's three possibilities. Are you going to bubble all three? Which one are they, undocking out of? Are they going to jump clone around? That kind of thing.
Well, I mean, this is not a Fortizar that you can just bubble up. These things are
exactly.
Yeah, you only need one or two to it'd be hard to. Anyway, but I thought it was interesting. It's kind of neat to see the Capitol. It feels a little eerie, almost like, kind of feel like, just to borrow a metaphor from World War II, like the Russians have kind of shelled Berlin or something, and it's kind of quiet and nobody knows what's happening next. That's what it kind of reminded me of. I think this was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. I wish they would put them all in one system. It would be much easier to find them then and take care of them.
All right, last thing for today, and this is something that is probably important to you, I think. This is the partnership program was announced with CCP today. And if you're a writer or a streamer or a podcaster or something, this program has been in the works for about 2 years. And they've announced what some of the, well, first of all, the application process is now open. But some of the benefits of joining them in an official way is that they will actually pay your account 500 plex for the person who's streaming or writing or whatever.
500 plex, and your main subscription is covered. So you get 2 subscriptions, or you get a decent amount of ISK.
Subscription plus 1. That's great. I didn't catch that. Thank you. You also get access to devs on their Discord that they're going to put up. And you have...
Can we get to the really important stuff?
Yes, I'm here now. Exclusive partner skins that you're a big fan of. Right?
You had me at skins, brother. You had me at skins.
That's all they needed, right, for you?
That's it.
So are you going to apply?
Oh, it took me at least 4 minutes to fill that out, the application.
Yeah, the ink's still wet on the paper and it's already in their hands.
Yeah. At the very bottom, it was like, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself? And I'm like, you had me at skins.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So, yeah. So, of course, the skins are meant as gifts that you can give away to your fans so they can pass through you to your fans if that's what you want to do. And the last thing is a promotion. They'll promote your, whether it be a stream or your, whatever it is, whatever content you're creating, they'll promote it with you to fans to give you more traffic and to basically expose your stuff, to surface it so people can check that out. Any thoughts on this, Ron?
I've felt, personally that CCP is super, super supportive, of the streamers, and like they've, when I've given them footage or whatever, they put my name, and I'm like, man, you don't have to, put my name on stuff. Like, it's yours. I don't care. So I've always felt that they're super, super supportive. I mean, and I love the paying for the account, especially for, being able to attract new streamers, and giving them some plex, because it is expensive, in game to stream, right? Especially if you're new, because you're going to get killed a lot. And, you have that sort of the monkey on your back, I guess, like watching, like you need to produce something, you need to do something.
Yeah.
So maybe people won't have to spend as much time mining or ratting or whatever, and they can do more content, which I think is great. The only, my only complaint, about CCP with their relation to streamers is, I would prefer, a stricter hammer to come down on stream sniping. That's my only complaint. Everything else I've found them to be super, super supportive, and, whatever you need, but, just the stream sniping. I wish we could come to some sort of rule set or something and start, passing out, whatever couple day bans to, super offensive and all this stuff. But
it does
as for the partnership
circuit,
program, I think it's great.
Stream sniping does short circuit the content for the streamer.
It does. But even more so, it turns people away from it. There's probably, 6 or 7 people, just here in the past few months that have streamed for a couple of days and they just get sniped to death and then they just never come back. And I'm a big fan of more streamers, more views, more, different kinds of viewers. Like, I think it's just better for all of us, to get more eyes and have more fun.
Yeah. I agree with Ormius here. The burden of OPSEC is on the streamer. Well, I don't agree with him, actually. I disagree with him. I read that wrong. Disagree with you, Ormius. I don't think, I think it, when I started watching Eve streamed, I was like, I can't see anything. They got black boxes over everything. Like, I don't even know where this guy is. Like, it's important to be able to show the game. It's important to be able to show the game as it's played. And it would be nice if you could actually create some content in its full glory without having to worry about your efforts being frustrated all the time. The way that I handle it whenever I do tours is I just take a cheap ship, and I'm always fit to I'm ISK tanking, basically, just cheap fit. And if I get killed, I'll continue to explain or whatever. Because I sometimes would do tours to battle sites, and as I'm touring people to the battle site, I'll talk about what happened there, like whether it be the Fountain War or Asakai or these BTEC-R, these big battles in the past. And so I did a number of those for a while. Maybe I'll do those again. But the idea was just, look, we're going to get killed. Let's just live with it. But I'm not going to cover anything up. I'm not going to cover up where we are at all. And sure, I got killed a couple of times, and it does suck. It sets you back. You can't really continue the story. I agree with you, Ron.
Yeah, and the other thing is, when you're starting to stream, right, you don't really have a concept of OPSEC, right? You might, talk to someone, or, oh, here, let me hide, the system I'm in, right? Or let me hide this. But then, if you click on a gate, right, to warp to it, the gate name is above that. And there's all these like little nuances that, people can learn by dying, but what they forget is that these are visitors, right, that are trying it out. And, why don't they just do this? Or why don't they roll with it? Or they just go away and they forget even what we are or who we, it's like they don't have to stay. They're not kind of hooked into the game, and they don't care, right? And the one guy I was thinking about, he streamed for 2 days and he got stream sniped within 2 hours, and in the starter system. And it's just like, and he's like, oh man, and he rolled with it and he had a great time, blah, blah, blah. And I talked to him afterwards, and I'm just going to go play Tarkov. And then that was that, right? So, all right.
One less entry point for other players, right?
Exactly.
It's bad. And see, there's a couple of things that CCP needs to do. And I agree with you. And I don't mind pushing back on some of the fans here that are explaining in chat why it should be okay. But is botting okay? No, right? CCP has artificially put their foot down on botting. They're going after it. They're creating systems even to frustrate them. They are going after them because it ruins the game and it brings in an element that you don't want. Same with ganking, right? Ganking is the same thing. It's still in the game, but they've frustrated it a lot. War decking, same thing. It's you could say, oh, look, war decks are just going to happen. You just have to live with it. That's how this game rolls. No, it's not. They have business priorities, and they can adjust the game to try to fit those business priorities to take some of the weight off of players that are trying to do a thing that is actually healthy for the game or better for the game. Retention, for instance, is better for the game. And stream sniping, to me, fits into that pretty well. You're trying to show the game. You're trying to display it. It's an old game, 2003. Nobody's considering it unless they see it. And you need to see it without all the black boxes all the time, or, the strategically put stuff. You need to see the beauty of the game. And so stream sniping, I think, does ruin avenues, especially for newer players, to show the game to other newer players. Their fans are watching them play, let's call it our game. Let's have it look nice so that people might be attracted to the game. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah, and a lot of some of the more modern games have the streamer mode, right? And it'll hide your name, and it'll hide some other things, and I think that's one interesting way, right, is to be able to hide the things on your screen, and hide the system you're in and this sort of thing. I think that's one way. But like, I think the thing that people have to remember is that there are a lot of games out there right now that are all vying for streamers, for attention, to get the word out, etc., about whatever update. And people they don't have to be here, especially if you're a newer streamer or a smaller streamer. You're here because you enjoy it. And if you are gonna stream and you're not enjoying it, and I'm not talking about just normal hardships of the game, but where it's easier to just play the game than it is to stream it. I'm not even talking about that. It's just, I think, if there was some way, because I think stream sniping, but then there's that edge, right? There's, where you can look at someone's Z kill, and for the past 3 months, there's 9 streamers on there. It's excessive, right? And I think, there's a couple of people like that. Yeah. And it's like, I wish there was some way that we could, start to take care of that. That's my only complaint, because on everything else, 5 stars, right? Like CCP's always been super, super supportive, very, very nice, and trying to help us.
To their IP, they let you use their
absolutely
music without problems. You can show the ships without problems. You don't really get into. You are helping them. The added value is for them, right? But it is, and they're smart to let us use all the art pieces that we want. Never give us a hassle about the music, etc.
Yep, that's right.
It's a bit more formal. Now they incentivizing you a little bit. I've heard from a couple
I think
people,
it's great.
I heard from a couple people that was like, well, it's not nearly enough. I personally don't know what CCP could do. Like, I haven't seen it in other games how players are rewarded for content. So I need to see some examples of that just to compare. But this looks pretty standard to me as far as what Eve's doing. I like the skins thing, and I'm glad you like it too.
The only one that I know of is League of Legends, and the streamers get all the skins. I think we should write that down, and maybe we should submit that.
All right.
They get, I guess, all the heroes, or they get all that stuff. Like, I think it's like at a certain level or something, maybe. I don't know. But I know that they get all that, and people always tease me about it. Well, in League of Legends, they get all the stuff, and I'm like, I get nothing.
Yeah. It'd be cool if they gave you a character. They gave you a character with like all the fixings, right? And gave you access to all the equipment or whatever, like as if you were on the test center. But you can't keep that character. But that would be abused. That's the problem with those.
You had me at the first part. I didn't like the second part. We're going to push back on that part.
No gear, but have all the skills.
I want to keep it. I want all the skins. Well, I mean, not the rare ones, not the victory, but the normal skins. Yeah, give them all to me. I'm ready.
Okay, good. All right.
Everything gets abused. This is Eve.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all.
I used to, whenever Pando pinged his streams, I used to tune in just as long as it took me to figure out which regions he was in to make sure that friendly rorquals weren't being tackled.
That's
perfect intelligence there.
Were you listening to the stream sniping part?
Yeah, it's the opposite part.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, guys, thanks very much for helping me out today, Gagorn, as always. And Ron, it's great to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, buddy.
That's all we have for today on Talking in Stations. Stay tuned. We'll raid somebody. And we will see you tomorrow for Friday edition of The Daily Show. All right, take care.